I mean, there are people who are good people who actually believe in immigration, but are concerned about rewarding somebody who broke American laws.
That this administration would sit down with this newly minted Republican Congress and find genuine common ground, border security. There's a series of piece-by-piece reforms that I believe could be advanced in this Congress that would be in the long-term interest of the American people on this issue.
And you're going to have a rush of kids coming over. I just don't, I just don't know how you deal with that.
Remember always that all of us, you and I especially, are descendants of immigrants. Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
The U.S. attracts 20% of all worldwide immigrants.
Today in America, there is a record high of 42.1 million immigrants. Adding all second-generation Americans to that 42.1 million adds to 80 million, meaning about 1/4 of all people living in the United States are either first or second-generation Americans.
The number of children with immigrant parents has grown by 60% since 1990. Still, with these great numbers of immigrants, only 19.3 million out of the 42.1 million immigrants are naturalized citizens. That's 45% of all immigrants.
Currently, the U.S. doesn't discriminate against any race or ethnic group. But before the Immigration Act of 1965, the system of becoming a citizen strongly favored Western and Northern Europeans. The Immigration Act of 1965 had a quota system based on factors like having skills deemed useful to the U.S., having relatives living in the U.S., and if you're a refugee of violence and civil unrest. During the signing of the bill, President Lyndon B. Johnson stated, "The Immigration Act is not a revolutionary bill. It does not affect the lives of millions. It will not reshape the structure of our daily lives or add importantly to either our wealth or power." People soon found out that the bill did change America. It drastically had an effect on our demographic makeup, and it caused the amount of immigrants from countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America to increase. But many people still can't afford to become citizens. It currently costs $595 to file a form for naturalization. With over 9.5 million immigrant families under the poverty line, paying these large fees are simply not possible for them. In order to solve the increased amount of illegal aliens and unnaturalized immigrants in our nation, we must reform the naturalization process so it is more affordable and less time-consuming. There are two parts of the Constitution that specifically mention naturalization. One of these is found in Article 1, Section 8, in creating the authority of the Congress, quote, "to establish a uniform rule of naturalization," end quote. Thus, from a constitutional standpoint, it is the responsibility of the Congress to establish all laws and rules of naturalization or of immigration. Before becoming a U.S. citizen, there are a few requirements you have to complete. Here are some examples. You have to be 18 years old or older when you file your application. You must be a permanent resident in the U.S. for at least 5 years. If you are married to a U.S. citizen, then you must be a permanent resident for 3 years. Here are some examples of the steps to becoming a U.S. citizen. You must prepare and submit your Form N-400 application for naturalization. You must take a test and complete an interview in an immigration office in your state. After completing the test, you must take an oath of allegiance to the United States at your state capital. Then you must understand the responsibilities and the luxury of being a U.S. citizen.
Although many can't afford to pay for the forms, this isn't due to the lack of employment. Even though they only make up for 13% of the American population, immigrants make up for 17% of the workers in the labor force.
Of the 42.1 million immigrants in the U.S., 30% of working immigrants worked in management and professional occupations. And although it could be argued that immigrants take away jobs from American-born citizens, it would hurt the economy if employers chose their employees based on immigrant status.
According to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, immigrants paid an estimated $10.6 billion to state and local taxes in 2010. To find out more about what kind of roles immigrants play in daily life, we decided to go to Hospital Care Group Professional Corporation to interview the CEO of the company, Mark Drapala. So what sort of role do immigrants play in your company?
Well, the primary role of immigrants in the company is physicians that we hire who live or are trained in different countries, come to the United States to do their residency programs, and then want to continue to practice medicine in the United States.
So would you say, in your opinion, do immigrants contribute in a good or bad way to the American workforce?
I think they contribute in a very positive way when they come through the legal channels. It's the illegal immigrants who I think pose a hardship on the United States and the United States workforce.
Our nation needs to remember who we were founded by and how many immigrants have influenced our nation to make it as great as it is today. We need to give immigrants more opportunities so they can become a member of our great nation and in turn give back to the community and nation. After all, our nation isn't the greatest because it gives liberty and justice to the few. We are the greatest because we give liberty and justice to all.